Robert Morris has found himself in serious trouble recently, and it's not looking good at all. It all goes back to when Morris stepped down as senior pastor of Gateway Church in 2024. This happened after reports came out that he had hurt a girl back in 1982 when he was traveling as a preacher in Oklahoma. A grand jury in Oklahoma charged him with 5 serious crimes earlier this year, and he's expected to go to trial later on. Now, Gateway Church has rejected Morris's request for millions of dollars in retirement benefits. They said no to Robert Morris asking for a big amount of money for his retirement. They don't want to pay him those benefits. Also, Morris wants to handle this money dispute through something called binding arbitration. And that's a private way to solve problems without going to a regular court. So instead of a judge and jury, both sides agree to have a neutral person called an arbitrator who will listen to their case and make a decision. This process is usually faster, private, and less formal than a regular court trial. Robert Morris might be pushing for binding arbitration because it keeps things more private. Since he's already facing serious criminal charges that are public, he might want to avoid more public attention or details coming out during a court fight over his retirement benefits. But the church doesn't want to do it that way and has asked the court to stop him from making them use arbitration. They want the matter handled differently, likely in a regular court instead. If you ask me, I think it's really a sad time, that we are in a time where we see a pastor and the church fighting over money, a supposed pastor's retirement benefits in court. And of course, that's because Robert Morris engaged in an act that puts his pastoral calling in serious question. Instead of focusing on leading the church and serving the community, now the spotlight is on legal battles and accusations from his past. It's disappointing to see how something that should be about faith and trust has turned into a public mess filled with lawsuits and accusations. Morris says that back in 2014, there was a compensation deal plus a later verbal promise from some church leaders that supports his claim to $1 million in retirement benefits. On top of that, he believes he should get around $800,000 every year until he turns 70. After that, the deal supposedly called for $600,000 a year to be paid to him and then to his wife, Debbie, after he passes away. But the church strongly disagrees. They say there's no written proof of any such promises made during meetings with the church elders. They also argue that the original agreement can't be changed just by someone's word. It has to be in writing. So the church is rejecting Morris's claims about these payments and the way they were supposedly agreed on. And this disagreement is one of the reasons the church wants the court to step in and settle the matter instead of going through arbitration. They want clarity and a proper look at the facts before any money changes hands. I think it's quite a lot of money. $800,000 every year until he turns 70. He's about 64 now, so that's several more years of a big paycheck, all coming from the donations people give to the church. And even after he turns 70, he's supposed to get $600,000 every year until he dies. Then after his death, his wife would keep getting that same amount. That's a huge sum. Now you can see why some people might want to go into ministry and become pastors, because there's a lot of money involved. These megachurch pastors often live in mansions and drive luxury cars. It raises questions about whether the focus is on serving people or on personal wealth. Before we continue, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That really helps push the video to more people who need to hear this message. It's a tough reality, especially when you think about the many church members who donate money, hoping it will help their community, support good causes, or spread kindness, not fund expensive lifestyles. This situation makes you wonder about the true purpose of ministry and the responsibility that comes with such a position. One thing we have to keep in mind is that since this scandal broke, you have to agree that the image of Gateway Church has taken a big hit. The church elders now have to work hard to fix that damage and bring the church's reputation back to where it should be. That's one of the reasons they're so upset right now. The church says Morris hasn't been honest. In their court filing, Gateway Church says they're shocked by what they call Morris's defiantly unapologetic attitude. They want him to publicly admit how old Cindy Clemisher was at the time. They want him to show real regret for the harm caused and to take back his claims that all the church elders knew the full details of what happened. Morris has amassed quite a lot of wealth from preaching, and even though he resigned, he still lives a life of luxury that many churchgoers can only imagine. After he stepped down, a report by TRR in November revealed that between 2012 and 2024, Morris bought and sold several multi-million-dollar properties in Texas. These included 2 homes worth $8 million each, a nearly $4 million house in a wealthy Dallas suburb, and a $1.7 million lakefront home. The Roy's report confirmed that over the past 12 years, Morris has been buying and selling multiple expensive properties across Texas. Some of these are a 370-acre ranch in Jacksboro valued at least $8 million, a custom-built home worth nearly $8 million in Colleyville, a $1.7 million home on a peninsula in Possum Kingdom Lake, about 80 miles west of Fort Worth, and a nearly $4 million house in Westlake, a Dallas suburb named the richest community in the U.S. by Forbes back in 2011. At one point, Morris owned 3 of these homes all at once. After he resigned from Gateway Church, he sold the Westlake home about a month later, but still owns the Jacksboro Ranch and the Lake House. This shows just how much wealth he has accumulated, raising even more questions about the lifestyle of some church leaders compared to the everyday people who support them. One thing about wealth, my friends, is that sometimes it puffs people up. It goes to their heads and changes how they act. You can see that clearly from the church's report on Morris. He hasn't been humble at all. There's an old saying that no matter what, there's always a day when evil deeds come to light. What's been hidden eventually gets exposed.
The reason why this is so close to my heart is this is what I see in ministry so very often in scandal. People who rush to do crisis control instead of open repentance before God. When people who are in scandal and sin and secret hire companies, secular companies, to come in and do damage control for their ministry, write scripts to be read, stare blankly at a teleprompter without emotion, without tear, without acknowledgement, and explain away the injustice. Try to lighten the load of sin and perversion and sexual sin and whatever it might be. Pay attention to me. You need people that know how to get on their face before God. Only God can do damage control. If you get out in front of your sin and you think you're going to create a strategy of damage control, you've already sealed the path of judgment and you're escalating the path and it's coming quicker than you think. What you really ought to do is run by the teleprompter and find an old-fashioned altar and get in a private place instead of a public place and say, I have sinned.
This situation reminds us that those in leadership, especially preachers, need to live with honesty and integrity because the truth will always catch up. And it's also important to talk about how some preachers amass great wealth while encouraging their members to buy books, pay tithes, and give generously with the promise that they too will become rich. But more often than not, the one holding the microphone is the one who ends up getting rich while many followers struggle. At the end of the day, Ministry should be about serving people, not serving personal wealth. When leaders forget that, it hurts the whole community. Thanks so much for watching and taking the time to listen. Stay thoughtful and keep asking the hard questions.